Hey guys, today we're going to go over 2.5 rewriting equations and formulas. Our objective is to solve a formula for a given variable, solve an equation in two or more variables for one of the variables. A formula is an equation that states a rule for a relationship among quantities. In the formula d equals rt, d is isolated. You can rearrange a formula to isolate any variable by using inverse operations. This is called solving for the variable. So for example, guys, if you have the d equals rt, and they're asking you that they want to solve for r, you would say, okay, so r is being multiplied by t. If this were an x, you would just divide the t on both sides, and you would get that d over t is equal to r. So whatever you usually do to solve for the x, you would do to solve for any other equation. Doesn't matter what variable, still the same order of operations. Usually what we've been doing is just the same variable or different variables within an equation, but you're able to combine them. In this case, you do not combine them because they're not the same variable. A formula is a type of literal equation. A literal equation is an equation with two or more variables. To solve for one of the variables, we use inverse operations. So like we have before, the d equals rt. In this case, again, it's multiplied, so we would divide. If we want to solve for r or for t, it doesn't really matter. Does it being multiplied? We would move it over. If we were to say we want to add a c, and we want to say, hey, let's solve for c, we would just subtract rt on both sides, and we would get d minus rt is equal to c. The reason we do rt as a whole is because it's single term. Even though it's being multiplied, it is a single term that you can just move over. So step 1 for solving for a variable. We have to 1. Locate the variable you are asked to solve for in the equation. 2. Identify the operations on which variables and the order in which they are applied. 3. You gotta use the inverse operations to undo operations and isolate the variable. You guys notice how in the last one, just gonna rewrite it. I highlighted the C. The reason I highlighted it is to show that that is the variable I'm solving for, in this case. In the first one, I also highlighted the variable, but it's just, that is one way of realizing and not forgetting what you're actually solving for. If you're able to do it without looking at the highlighted, or without needing to highlight, by all means, you don't need to highlight it, but it's helpful to just know what you're solving for. Okay, so this first one, they want us to solve for x, and as you guys know, x at least is in blue, so it's already identifiable. Amazing. In order to solve for x, remember, we want to isolate that variable. So since it's x plus y is equal to 15, we're just going to subtract the y on both sides to cancel it out, and we just get x is equal to 15 minus y. Now please remember, do not combine the y with the 15. One's a constant and one's a variable. We do not combine those unless they're the same. Now for b, they want us to solve for q. Again, it's highlighted. So since p and q are being multiplied, I can just divide both sides by p, and that will cancel out, which will give me q is equal to x over p. And that will be your final answer. Because the q is alone, and we work the inverse operation of multiplication, we're able to just say that q is equal to x over p. And that will be, again, the final answer, in this case, for both of these equations. Take a second, please, to pause this video to solve for this equation on your own. Okay, I hope you guys paused it, so I'm going to show you how to solve for it. They want us to solve for t, and we have 5 minus b is equal to 2t. Now, I'm going to divide the 2 on both sides in order to solve for t. Now, I'm going to write 5 minus b over 2 is equal to t. But please realize, we already talked about this in a few chapters ago, that 2 belongs to both of those numbers. You can can also write it as 5 over 2 minus b over 2 is equal to t. I will accept either this one or this one, but please remember that it is both. Alright, so the next example, we have the formula C equals pi d. Gives the circumference of a circle C in terms of diameter d. They want us to solve in terms of d. So I'm going to highlight that letter and say, hey, they want us to solve for that letter. Let's see what's going on. So the pi is being multiplied by the d. So we're just going to divide out pi. Okay, so remember, pi is just a number. Whatever you do, you can move it around. Same with any variable. So we're going to get C over pi equals d. That is your answer. You can also write it as d is equal to circumference over pi. And either one is okay. Which is good to know. Please pause this and try to solve. Okay, let's hope you guys paused it. The number is being multiplied, so I'm just going to divide by r. As they're asking us to solve for t. T equals d over r. The next one. The formula for the area of a triangle is a equals 1/2 base times height, where b is the length of the base and h is the height. Solve for h. Now they want us to solve for h, but there's a few terms, guys. We have this 1/2 and we have this b. Now, if I were you guys, I would take it one step at a time. Let's deal with the half first. Please remember that the half of an inverse is just 2 over 1. So I'm going to multiply the left and the right side by 2 over 1. When I do that, I get 2 over 1a is equal to bh. Now, I'm going to get rid of that over 1 as that is not necessary right now, because any number over 1 is just itself. Alright, perfect. We got one step down. I'm going to re-highlight the letter we're solving for. Awesome. So we're solving for h. Now, b and h are being multiplied. So I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by b. And I'm going to get that 2ab is equal to h. Again, you're welcome to write it as h is equal to 2a over b. Either one is correct, and I will take either one in the quiz or class. Now, solve for the literal equation 3y plus 4x equals 9 for y. Now, they want us to solve for y. Please try to take a second, pause the video, and try to work it on your own. Alright, so I hope you guys paused. I'm going to subtract the 4x from both sides because I want to make sure that that term with that y is alone. Just going to rewrite it as 3y equals negative 4x plus 9. Also, guys, a lot of you would most likely have written it as 3y is equal to 9 minus 4x. And I want to tell you guys either way is okay, and it's correct. So I just prefer having the x in the front. But for now, it doesn't matter which way you do it, guys. Now, since I want the y to be alone, I'm going to divide both sides by 3. Again, please remember that 3 belongs to the 9 and also to the 4x. So you can get y is equal to negative 4 over 3x plus 9 over 3, which simplifies to y is equal to 4 over 3x plus 3. Now, this is literal, so solve the literal equation y equals 3x plus 5x z for x. They want us to write the equation solving for x. Guys, I will explain this in class tomorrow. Please go ahead and do the practice work for the first half of the notes, and I will finish this in class tomorrow. You have an assignment due. Please remember to turn in the notes up to the last slide. We will work on this one together when I come back. And start please working on the practice problems for what we just learned. It is due by the end of class. If you're not able to finish because of the different schedule today, you guys can turn it in for homework, but it is due by the end of class. This is the ending for 2.5, the last 3 slides that we're going to cover. Guys, I want us to solve this linear equation, y equals 3x plus 5x z for x. In order to solve for x, I want you guys to realize that you have an x on one term and on the other. So we can take out an x. So this is the opposite of distribution, guys. Usually when you distribute to both terms. So I want you to realize since both of the terms have an x, I can take it out and I can write y equals x parentheses 3 plus 5z. Now, how do you know if this is the right answer or the right way of taking it out? You can actually distribute the x back in. And when I do that, I get y equals 3x plus 5xz. If you notice that this and this are the same equation, then you know you took out the x correctly. So now let's keep going. We're going to divide the 3 plus 5z on both sides. The reason we're doing the whole term on the parentheses is because that is one singular term. If you had, for example, 2 equals xy and they tell you to solve for x, you can just divide the y, correct? So it works the exact same way. It's just because it's a 3 plus 5z, but it's the whole term. Okay? We're going to divide on both sides, which that is going to give us y over 3 plus 5z equals 2x. This is one way of writing it. You can also write it, if you like, the x on the left side. X equals y over 3 plus 5c. Either way, it is correct. Now, I also want you to look at this right here. It says, remember, division by 0 is undefined. How would that look? That would look if you had, I'm just going to use the number 4 for an example. 4 over 0 is just going to give us an error or undefined. Let me write undefined. It's going to be undefined. Now, this applies to any number divided by 0. So I'm going to do a little number sign over 0. It's always undefined. So you cannot divide by 0. You can have 0 on the top, and that will be a 0, but you cannot have a 0 on the bottom. Now, example 3, it says, the formula for the surface area S of a rectangular prism is S equals 2LW plus 2LH plus 2WH. Solve for the formula for the L, which is the length. So if we look at the formula, S equals 2LW plus 2LH plus 2WH, we can see that we have an L here and an L here, but not on the last one. So before I want to take anything out, to just make my life a little simpler, I'm going to subtract this 2W from both, this 2WH from both sides, which is going to give me S minus 2WH is equal to 2LW plus 2LH. Now, since both terms on the right have an L, which is what we're solving for, I'm going to go ahead and take it out. So S minus 2WH equals L, 2W plus 2H. Now keep in mind, when you distribute that L back, you can check to make sure it matches the original, which in this case it does. So we can go on from there. You can divide both sides by 2W plus 2H. And you can write
actually the answer in a few different ways. One would be S minus 2WH, the whole thing over 2W plus 2H equals L. That's one way. You guys can separate the fractions, the S and then the 2WH. You can write it as S over 2W plus 2H minus 2WH over 2W plus 2H is equal to L. The key part is if you're going to simplify it by this, like separating those two fractions, you have to make sure that the whole denominator is on both terms. If not, that will be considered wrong if you separate them. Please make sure that it is the same on both. I will accept this, which is just everything together. That is 100% okay to write. And if you wish, you can actually even write it backwards. The L equals S minus 2WH, all of it over 2W plus 2H. Now, either way, it is correct. I personally like to have the whole thing together. You don't have to. You can have it separate if you wish. In order to solve for f, guys, you can do it multiple different ways. I'm going to run through two of them. If you have any questions, please ask. Now, remember to get rid of a fraction, all you multiply is by itself upside down. So I'm going to multiply times 9 over 5 on both sides. And that's going to give me, this is way 1, so I'm going to write it down. So, first way. So after doing that, I'm going to get 9 over 5c equals f minus 32. Now, I'm going to get rid of those parentheses because there's nothing else I'm multiplying, or I need them anymore for this. So I'm going to do 9 over 5c equals f minus 32. Afterwards, I am going to add that 32 to isolate the x. Now, since I cannot combine a constant with a variable, I'm just going to go ahead and write 9 over 5c plus 32 is equal to f. That is your answer. If you like the f first, we can write f equals 9 over 5c plus 32. Either of those ways is correct, guys. Those two answers are good.
So it's not.
Now, I'm going to erase this blue to start on the second way. Now, the second I'm going to do in red. So, another way I saw you guys were doing it is you were distributing that 5 over 9. You can do that too. We can do C equals 5 over 9F minus 5 over 9 times 32 over 1. I'm going to go ahead and combine the 32 times 5. Let's do the math. So we're going to get C is equal to 5 over 9F minus 160 over 9. I'm going to go ahead and add that 160 over 9 on both sides. And I'm going to get that C plus 160 over 9 equals 5 over 9F. I have to go ahead and actually multiply as well by 9 over 5 like we did in the beginning to get rid of this one. And I have to do it, guys, to the whole thing, okay? You have to do it to both sides completely. I'm going to erase the work for the first way, just so I have space. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to distribute that 9 over 5 to both terms, which is going to give me 9 over 5c. I'm going to go ahead, guys, and give you the simplified version of 9 over 5. So I'm going to write it down first, and then I'll give you a simplified version. 9 over 5 times 160 over 9. This is going to simplify to positive 32. So I'm going to write 9 over 5c plus 32 is equal 2F. Now, if you notice, that is the, oh my God, I can't make a square. That is the same thing we had from the first one. So the order doesn't matter. We're still going to get the same thing at the end. All right, guys, so this is it for today. You guys do have homework, and it's on Canvas.